بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. In the previous lecture we talked about the topic of adultery and the various manifestation and the various degrees of what can be considered adultery. Tonight the lecture is something which is a higher degree of zina, a higher degree of adultery. We've mentioned that the major sins, first of all, the major sins, they're not all of the same level. Some of them are higher in the scale of major. And then even if there is a particular sin within, like for example zina, even zina, which is from the major sins, even that has degrees within it. So for example, a person who commits zina with a random strange woman, the sin is a major sin. But a person who commits zina with his mother, وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ, it is higher. A person who commits zina with his neighbor's wife, this is higher than a regular zina. And so one of the most heinous types of sexual perversion is sodomy. It is homosexuality. The scholars, they are unanimous. There is ijma' that sodomy is haram and it is from the major sins. Why is there a need for me to mention that the scholars are unanimous, meaning there is ijma' upon this? Because nowadays there are people who are saying that homosexuality is not haram. People who are actually ascribing to the religion of Islam. And so it is important for us to know that when there is ijma', when there is consensus amongst all the scholars, which is rare in the religion of Islam, that means every single one of the scholars throughout time, they agree that sodomy or homosexuality is haram. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions with regards to the people of Prophet Lut alayhi salam, أَتَأْتُونَ الذُّكْرَانَ مِنَ الْعَالَمِينَ وَتَذَرُونَ مَا خَلَقَ لَكُمْ رَبُّكُمْ مِنْ أَزْوَاجِكُمْ بَلْ أَنْتُمْ قَوْمٌ عَادُونَ. Do you approach men from amongst the mankind and leave what your Lord has created for you as mates, but you are a people who are transgressing? The Prophet ﷺ, he cursed the homosexuals. And this is one of the ways to know whether something is a major sin. And we talked about this in our first lesson. What is a major sin? What defines a major sin? And we mentioned a few points that defines an act to be a major sin or a minor sin. One of the ways that we can tell this is a major sin, if Allah and or His Messenger has cursed that. And so the Prophet ﷺ, as narrated by Ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhu, he said, لَعَنَ اللَّهُ مَنْ عَمِلَ عَمَلَ قَوْمِ لُوطٍ. That the curse of Allah, or Allah, He curses the one who does the act from the actions of Qawmi Lut. The curse of Allah. Do you think if someone is cursed by Allah that this person will ever be successful in this world, let alone the hereafter? This is the curse of Allah. And by default, if Allah curses someone, then the Prophet has cursed that individual. And if Allah and His Prophet has cursed the individual, then all of the creation of Allah, their curse is upon those people as well. Also the Prophet ﷺ, he said, مَنْ وَجَدْتُمُوهُ يَعْمَلُ عَمَلَ قَوْمِ لُوطٍ فَاقْتُلُوا الْفَاعِلَ وَالْمَفْعُولَ بِهِ. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he says that whoever of you finds someone doing the action of the people of Qawmi Lut, then execute the one who does it and the one to whom it is done. Now sodomy, homosexuality is worse than zina and it is more vile. It is more vile. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us about the story of the people of Lut and how He punished them for their vile behavior. فَلَمَّا جَاءَ أَمْرُنَا جَعَلْنَا عَالِيَهَا سَافِلَهَا وَأَمْطَرْنَا عَلَيْهَا حِجَارَةً مِّن سِجِّيلٍ مَنْضُودٍ. So when our command came, and who can stop the command of Allah? Who can stop the command of Allah? When Allah's command comes, there is no power on earth that can stop the command of Allah. And Allah, He said, we made the highest part its lowest part and rained upon them stones of layered hard clay. What did Allah do? And Ibn Abbas and others, they explained, how did Allah flip them over? And Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, he said that it just took the tip of the wing of an angel to tip them up until the heavens could hear their screams. Pick them up until the heavens could hear their screams and put them down on the earth, flipping them over. And in order to save the earth from their defilement, Allah, He rained upon them stones, because no one is there to bury these people. Stones of hardened clay, so that way they can be buried under those stones. Now, if others, they act in the same way, the same punishment will come. Nas'alullah al-afiyah. We ask Allah for protection. If others do the action of Qawmi Lut, the same punishment will come upon them. As An-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said, "Inna akhwafa ma akhafu ala ummati amalu Qawmi Lut." That verily what I fear most for my nation, what I fear most for my nation is the deed, is the act of the people of Lut. Now, homosexuality is, like I've mentioned, one of the most heinous acts that a person can commit. And this realization is something that Allah has built into our fitrah. What I've talked about before, the fitrah, the natural inclination, the natural disposition. There was an article that was published recently in the peer-reviewed scientific journal. Whenever it's peer-reviewed, that means other scientists, they critique it and they are review it and they are able to pass whether it should be published or not, as opposed to just anyone publishing anything on the internet for free and there's really no critique. So a peer-reviewed, meaning other scientists, other scholars, they will be able to go ahead and say this is worthy of being published. So there was an article that came in Psychology and Sexuality, and it says that in heterosexual men, men who are heterosexual, they were shown pictures of rotting flesh, maggots, and spoiled food, and that induced the same physiological stress response as pictures of two men kissing each other. That's the fitrah. You know, when you see two men kissing each other, you get disgusted. The same disgust. Okay, a person who is shown rotten flesh, you smell it, you see it, you get disgusted. The same response is when the natural fitrah comes out. How were they able to measure this? How were they able to go ahead and do this? So participants, they were shown slides or slideshows where men, they were kissing each other, men holding hands. And so what they did, and also maggots and rotten flesh and so on, and they used to go ahead and take saliva from them. Saliva from them. And in our saliva, there is an enzyme. That enzyme is a digestive enzyme. It's called the alpha amylase. It's a digestive enzyme that is associated with stress. So when they used to show these pictures and then take the saliva out, they found that this stress enzyme is found in the saliva of these types of people. If they were shown maggots and rotting flesh, then they took out the saliva, they could detect through that stressful enzyme, oh, this person, he is disgusted by this. Then later on, they showed paper clips, as a buffer to cool down their stress level. Showed them other happy pictures. And then they showed men holding hands, men kissing each other. And then when they took their saliva, they found the same amount of this type of an enzyme which was in their saliva. What does that mean? What does that mean? It means the fitrah. You may say whatever you want, but your fitrah is disgusted by it. This is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us. You want to go against the natural inclination that you were created with? Yarhamukallah. And they said that these findings are surprising. It's surprising. But they don't realize that for us it's not surprising. For us it's part of our fitrah, and their fitrah has been either suppressed by the West or by the bullying LGBT community that is pushing these agendas. Okay? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He calls homosexuality dirty and disgusting. And this is how we should be describing it as well. If someone asks you, what do you think about LGBT? Say, I think what Allah, He told us about the Quran, they're dirty and they're disgusting. As Allah, He says, وَلُوطًا آتَيْنَاهُ حُكْمًا وَعِلْمًا وَنَجَّيْنَاهُ مِنَ الْقَرْيَةِ الَّتِي كَانَتْ تَعْمَلُ الْخَبَائِثِ إنهم كانوا قوم سوء فاسقين وأدخلناه في رحمتنا إنه من الصالحين. And to Lut we gave judgment, we gave wisdom and knowledge, and we saved him from the city that was committing dirtiness, disgusting things. We saved him from the city in which khaba'ith was being committed. Khaba'ith, filth, and disgusting deeds were being committed. Indeed, they were a people of evil, defiantly disobedient. His people were so dirty and disgusting, they hated anything that was pure. What does that tell you? When a person, he is so disgusting, something pure, they hate it. As opposed to someone who is so pure, something disgusting, he hates it. Correct? For example, you take a shower on Yawmul Jumu'ah and you wear nice clothes, and then your wife is cooking onions and garlic and preparing some nice food for you, so when you return back from Jumu'ah, the food is ready. Correct? What do? You run out of the house. Is onions and garlic disgusting? It's not disgusting. It's food. But we want to run away because we just purified ourselves. We are smelling so good, we want to even run away from the kitchen. Correct? This is how pureness works. When you're wearing a white thobe, one small little dot, everyone can see it. This is pureness. This is purity. And the opposite is Qawmi Lut. For them, they were so entrenched in disgusting acts. When they saw something pure, they hated it. What does that tell you about their psychological state of mind? What does that tell you how deep they were in their dirtiness? As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَمَا كَانَ جَوَابَ قَوْمِهِ إِلَّا أَن قَالُوا أَخْرِجُوهُم مِّن قَرْيَتِكُمْ إِنَّهُمْ أُنَاسٌ يَتَطَهَّرُونَ. What did their people say to Lut? Instead of saying, you know what, yeah, you're right, we would not be born if our forefathers were also homosexuals. Yeah, our forefather, I had a mother and a father, and we found our... Instead of saying this and accepting it and looking into or within themselves, they said, kick him out of the country, exile him. Why? Because these are people who are pure. That was their only reason. That's the only reason they gave. That Prophet Lut and his people are people who likes to clean themselves, who likes pure things. And this is why they wanted to kick him out. No other reason. The town where the people of Lut were is a town that is called Sodom. Where is Sodom? Sodom is in the west of the Dead Sea, which is right by the border. The Dead Sea is right by the border of Palestine and Jordan. They were on the west side, meaning they were in Palestine area. And it is called the Dead Sea. Who knows why it is called the Dead Sea? It is called the Dead Sea because no life is there. There is absolutely no life in the Dead Sea. Normally water, وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ. Normally from water, Allah brings life. In the Dead Sea, absolutely nothing. Except some bacteria. No fish, no plants.
I don't think
nothing.
Bacteria because it's too salty.
Yeah, even some, they said even some of them said there's even no bacteria as well, but they found some minute traces. Maybe someone he put it there. But what does that tell you? Even that surrounding area, even the surrounding area, there is no life, including in the Dead Sea. They used to practice sodomy with men. And what else did they used to do? They used to break wind. They used to break wind in gatherings, and they used to laugh about it too. So they used to sit and they used to break wind. The other one, he used to break wind, and they used to have a laugh about it. And they used to commit highway robbery. They used to rob people while they are traveling on the highways or on the main road. As Allah, He says in Surah Al-Ankabut, chapter 29, verses 28 to 29, وَلُوطًا إِذْ قَالَ لِقَوْمِهِ إِنَّكُمْ لَتَأْتُونَ الْفَاحِشَةَ مَا سَبَقَكُمْ بِهَا مِنْ أَحَدٍ مِّنَ الْعَالَمِينَ. And remember Lut when he said to his people, indeed you commit such immorality that no one has preceded you from amongst the mankind. أَإِنَّكُمْ لَتَأْتُونَ الرِّجَالَ وَتَقْطَعُونَ السَّبِيلَ وَتَأْتُونَ فِي نَادِيكُمُ الْمُنْكَرَ. Indeed, you approach men and obstruct the road and commit in your meetings, in your gatherings, every munkar. What's munkar? In munkar, generally it means evil. But in this context, Aisha radiallahu anha and Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, as it comes in Ibn Kathir and At-Tabari, they said it meant that they used to break wind in the direction of the other person. They used to break wind in the direction of the other people, and the answer of his people was not, but they said, bring us the punishment of Allah. And so nowadays, what is the answers of the people when we say to them, this is the punishment from Allah? They cancel you and they say, you are just, how dare you? How dare you say that this is a punishment? These are human beings. And we will talk about this later. And you lose your job. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, he reported that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said, Allah, he has cursed a few types of people. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, Allah has cursed, and then he mentioned a few types of people. Towards the end, he said, Allah has cursed the one who commits bestiality. And Allah has cursed the one who behaves like the people of Lut. What is bestiality? Bestiality is when a person seeks pleasure with or from an animal. That's bestiality. Our society that we're living in right now, it has reached the apex, the peak of moral degradation, of sexual perversion. Just the other day, a woman, and she is promoting this on TikTok. She was promoting she was filming herself having sex with her dog. The news got aware of it and everything. And what happened? Her employer found out and they kicked her out. Then she released a statement on Twitter saying, I need to come out of the closet and I need to tell everyone, I'm not a human, I am a trans canine. What does that mean, trans canine? Meaning, I am a dog. I am transitioning from a human. It's not my fault. Feel sorry for me. I only want empathy and love and understanding. These are her words. I want love and understanding from the people. This is how this whole movement of homosexuality and LGBT came. They did not come to reason with logic. They did not come to tell you this is right scientifically even. Forget about religion for the time being. They did not come to say this is a better way of life. How did they come? They came through Hollywood. They came through using models and actors, and through movies, and through the use of storytelling and acting and various filmmaking techniques. What they will do is push a narrative, an agenda, regardless of whether that narrative is right, objectively right or wrong. Through the use of emotional tactics and convincing actors, CGI and visual effects and dramatic atmosphere and heartbreaking music and sobbing stories. Movies nowadays, they don't need to appeal to reason to convey their message. Forget about reason. Forget about tradition. Forget about religion and religious people. Even forget about basic biological facts. Now they use or they make use of emotional tactics. And they say, just feel sorry for this poor gay kid who is oppressed by his family and who is shunned by the society. Unfortunately, my brothers and sisters, we as parents, we consider these movies, Netflix, Hollywood, cartoons, Disney, as being harmless animations. We allow our kids because we don't have time for them. Be quiet, I'm on the phone. Here, watch Disney, watch Nickelodeon, watch whatever else they have nowadays. And I wouldn't be surprised if they came out with a network that's called LGBT network.
It's going to come soon.
Coming soon.
Oh, no, yeah, Abu Ahmed, don't say coming soon.
Well,
Yeah.
when you apply for any application now, you see like 5 sexes there now.
Yeah. So unfortunately, our Muslim parents, they consider these cartoons to just be harmless animation. And they ask, how can these cartoons divert my kids from the straight path? How can cartoons turn my child against Islam? And so they leave their kids unmonitored and unsupervised because they are so busy doing whatever that they are doing, and they are consuming countless of hours of such content. Now the thing is that these cartoons and animations, they are designed to have a lasting psychological effect on our children. Know this, my brothers and my parents. They include cues, they include signals that are designed to leave these effects and these feelings even when they grow up. Is it surprising that most of the actors and actresses on Disney and Nickelodeon, they came out as gay? Is that surprising? It should not be surprising. If the actors and actresses on Nickelodeon and on Disney cartoons or those Disney sitcoms or whatever they had, they came out as gay or severely sexually perverted. It should not be. What do you think it's going to do to your kids that you're making them consume countless hours of such content? I give you an example from a religious paradigm. Once a child, he asks his father why they recite the Quran, even though they don't understand it. Despite them not understanding the Quran not understanding the Quran because it's in Arabic, why do they recite it? So the father, he gives his son a dirty basket and tells him, go and fetch some water from the well. So the boy, he goes and he carries he fills up the basket, the dirty basket. He fills it up with water, but he notices that by the time he returned home, all the water had drained from the holes that were in the basket. The holes that were inside the basket. So you can imagine a dirty basket or bucket, and there are holes in there. So he goes and he fills it up, and by the time he comes, all of it is dripping that water. So when he comes back to his father, there's really nothing there. And then his father sends him back again. He goes, and by the time he comes back, he comes back empty bucket. And so after doing this multiple time, in the end, the father says to him, or he tells his father, he says, the bucket, the basket, it won't fill. And so the father says, look at the bucket. Look at the bucket. He looks at the bucket, and what is it? It's clean. This is the effect of the Quran. You don't understand it? You're missing out on very important messages and commandments and very beneficial lessons. But nonetheless, even though you don't understand it, the effect that it has on your heart, the effect it has on your psyche, the effect that it has on the way you carry yourself. Imagine the person who's always consumed with the Quran. You think he's going to be skipping? Or do you think how do you think he's going to be acting? You think he's going to be acting as a gangster? You think he's going to be using curse words with the same tongue that he's reciting the Quran? He doesn't understand it. Naturally, it will have this cleansing effect and bring about a change in this individual. It will clean him. And this is why, my dear young brothers, what did I mention? What did I mention with regards to Sheikh Ibrahim? You need to start learning your Quran, even if it's once or twice a week for half an hour, so you could learn the book of Allah and so it could have this cleansing effect on you. Now, similarly, don't you think that when you are putting clean and pure-minded kids in front of the TV, in front of Disney, in front of Nickelodeon, in front of Netflix, and they are subliminally putting out these messages, what do you think it's doing to this pure mind of your children? What do you think it's doing? Even if you bring them to the masjid, they are coming to the masjid with an infected mind. In our Saturday school, in our Little Khalifa's Academy, we're always trying to push out the message, the pure message of Islam to these pure souls, these absorbing sponges. And so when some of the holidays were coming, which are paganistic in nature, Halloween, Christmas, New Year's, Valentine's, they all have shirk in them. And the Christians from ancient Rome, because ancient Rome, Europe was all mushrikeen, and then when the Christians, they migrated there, they wanted to go ahead and convert them to Christianity, but they did not want to convert to Christianity. So what did they do? They say, let's compromise. How? By adopting, one of the ways was by adopting their paganistic, their shirky rituals, make it Christianize it, and say, look, we are not different. We are all the same. And so people started to become Christians through that, and they retained those festivals. So anyway, we were discussing this and we were teaching this, and one of the kids said, after he heard about Halloween one day, and then after a few weeks, then Christmas came and we talked about this, and then after a couple of weeks, New Year's came. What do you think he said? He said, this is all propaganda. Yeah, we. Yeah, we are all doing propaganda. I don't blame the kid at all. He's an innocent child. He's an innocent kid who has been propagandized by the media and by indoctrinated by all of these movies that is showing it in such a beautiful way. I don't blame the kid. I blame the parents for allowing him to be indoctrinated and propagandized. All we're doing is trying to undo everything. And we're trying to go ahead and teach him what our forefathers, what our religion is teaching us. And that is, lakum dinukum waliya din. If the non-Muslims, they want to celebrate their Eid, we have our Eid. So the point that I am making, my dear parents and my dear brothers, and sisters, is that through these types of stories and through these types of movies and cartoons, they are indoctrinating and they are propagandizing, to use his words, these satanic practices of LGBTism through Pixar, Disney, and so on. Now, over 80%, listen to this, over 80% of the content on Netflix, who has, don't raise your hands, who has subscription to Netflix? Don't raise your hand, I don't want to know. Who has, you see, even when you buy a new phone, it already has Netflix installed in there. You cannot delete it. You cannot delete it. I bought a new tablet. You can't delete it. You cannot remove it. Over 80% of the content on Netflix is pro-LGBT, and it is available in almost every country. In every country. And so the billionaires, the executives at Disney and at Netflix, they will pretty much stop at nothing to make sure that kids, they accept LGBT as something that is good and as beautiful. Recently, a story broke out in the news in which a polyamorous California throuple, they made history when they became the first family in California to list 3 dads on the birth certificate. Forget about 2 dads now. 3. Can you believe it? They're against polygamy. A man to marry and to want more than one wife. A man, biologically, he is polygamous. When he ejaculates 30 to 40 million sperms. Each one of them has the potential of inseminating an egg and impregnating an egg. Biologically, he is polygamous. A woman, she has 1 egg. And she is very careful who she shares that egg with. And even that egg, it is fertile only for 24 hours in a month. It is released from the ovaries into the uterus, and it is fertile only for 24 hours, meaning you only have 24 hours to make it, to inseminate it. Which means what? Biologically, women are only meant for 1 man. Islam came and limited the polygamous nature of a man and set rules and boundaries and said, you want more than 1? Then these are the conditions. These are what you need to do. But yet, the fitrah, the biological, forget about fitrah, forget about religion for now. The biological nature of a man, they will go ahead and make it illegal. But listing 3 dads in the certificate of 1 innocent child, legal. You should celebrate it. It made history. It will go down in history, and it is a precedence for future rulings. And so this is how they are destroying the family unit. My brothers and sisters, we came, as Muslims, we came from a tribal family society. Then colonialism and all of this, they destroyed all the tribes. Gave them positions, gave them this, destroyed all the tribes. The only countries that are not affected by tribalism are those countries that still have tribes are those countries that have not been affected by colonialism. Whatever you need, you were born, you work, you socialize, you get married within the tribe. Then they reduced it to the extended family, uncles, aunts, grandparents. Then they reduced it to the nuclear family, which was just up until 10, 15 years ago. The nuclear family, mom, dad, kids. Now, remove even parts of the nuclear family. Now, it's 2 moms and kids. Now, it's 2 moms and a whole bunch of kittens and cats. Now it's 3 dads and 1 child. Now, who wants marriage? Marriage is oppression. Why do you need to have someone else in your life telling you what to do after the 70 major destruction lecture? Please go to Stop and Shop and buy some milk on your way out. Why do you need someone to say that to you? Why do you need to cook and clean and have kids with someone? They're destroying that. And so what are they introducing? Brothers and sisters, these are real. This is happening now, while we are fighting amongst ourselves and arguing amongst ourselves whether we should pray like this or like this and make raf' al-yadayn, and these things don't matter. This has been discussed by the scholars of the past. And so, now they're saying, why do you need to get married? You don't need anyone. So they are creating sex robots who will go ahead and give you all the companionship. And before that, and right now there is a company, it's called Ecto Life. Ecto Life. Look it up on YouTube. They said, kids, why you want to have kids? You really want to have kids? Then we have artificial wombs. It's a factory is able to produce 36,000 babies in a year. Ya Abu Abdurrahman, 36,000 babies in 1 year. What do? They take out, look it up on YouTube, they take out the egg and they take out the sperm and they go ahead and inseminate it and put it in the artificial womb, and this is where it develops for 9 months. And soon enough, it will be a crime against humanity. It will be a human rights violation if you want to. It will be illegal if you want to have babies the natural way. Why? Because it harms the mother. It puts her through pain for 9 months. You don't need any more morning sickness. You don't need to take off work for 4 months and postpartum bleeding and all of these pain that you're going through. You can go ahead and do it through this artificial womb. We will go ahead and do it from A to Z while you are still working for the corporations and paying your taxes, because at the end of the day, what is it? It's all about taxes. That's what it is. The government is losing billions of dollars because women, for about 4 months, they're unable to work. In fact, they're losing trillions when they have to give payments because of EDD, disability. No. Soon they will make it illegal. Just give it about 25, 30, 50 years. That's the reality. Yeah, that's the reality, my brothers and sisters. So, at this point, we are left with only very few options. What are we left with? Huh? Deen. we are left with very few options. We don't have many options. As parents, we need to be proactive in the education of our children. If you can homeschool, homeschool your kids. The total number of actual education in the school is about 2 hours. In primary and secondary, mainly primary, it's about 2 hours. Everything else is coloring rainbow flags. Everything else is about socializing. Everything else is not educational. If you were to educate your kids for 2 hours a day, what you believe, your right as a parent is what? To raise your kids according to what you believe. According how you want to raise them. Because when you die, they are your legacy and they are the ones who will be making dua, or dua for you or dua against you. This is the permanent, semi-permanent solution that we have. If we want to educate our woman, educate your woman with the intention that they will become teachers for your kids, for their kids. Because our future is at stake. I say this with all honesty and a lot of sadness. Not only our future, but the future of humanity is at stake because they are attacking the humanity. And this is what secularism does. Secularism does this to people when they look at this whole world, which we already talked about in our Aqidah class, and there's really no point for us to go ahead and talk about it. Recently, on September 12th, 2022, the Supreme Court, it ruled that an Orthodox Jewish university in New York, just right here, is required to officially recognize an LGBTQ student group. They're coming for us. Imagine, may Allah protect every community. Imagine an imam who has been watching Disney and cartoon and Nickelodeon, and then all of a sudden he says, Ya Jama'ah, I am gay. Can you fire him? Can you fire him?
No.
You cannot fire him. You cannot. No. Huh? Huh?
No one goes to the mosque.
Yeah, but how do you know? Behind the scenes, he was indoctrinating your kids. You will go ahead and pray alone. This is the reality, my brothers.
Like what's happening in church.
Forget about the imam, an Islamic school, the janitor, the teacher. She comes out as gay. Can you fire that Islamic school teacher? No, you can't. You can't. You know why? Now it is protected right. So what can you do? That's why I said homeschooling. Homeschooling. And 100%. And they will also soon prevent you. There was one of my friends in the UK. Yeah, in France they don't. One of my friends in the UK, because in UK they're slowly making it illegal to homeschool, slowly. And so what happened, my friend, he was telling me his wife is very smart, mashallah. So what she used to do, because the school, the child, what is it, the child CPC, or CPS, Child Protective Services. They used to come and check, especially on the Muslims. They used to check. They used to give me what the curriculum. So she used to save all the receipts of the library checkout books that she used to go ahead and check out all of the LGBT books. Of course, she never taught it, but she said, look, I'm even teaching them. Oh, good, very good. Anyway, to conclude this, and we don't want to make this longer, except inshallah after the lecture is officially over, my brothers and sisters, we have a very serious dilemma. Before, we were scared for our kids that they may commit zina. Wal-'iyadu billah. Then we are scared that they may come out as homosexuals. We have many challenges. There are many holes that we need to plug to stop the leaking.
I don't know how.
Yeah.
How are you going to plug all of the holes?
Yeah.
It's too many.
And that's why, my brothers, one of the ways I've mentioned is homeschooling. Another way is to always be connected with your masjid. Demand from your imams and from your scholars that they have proactive, not reactive, proactive courses and curricula and programs for the youth as well as for everyone else. You must demand this. You must attend. All I see, most except for these young shabab, where are your kids? Where are your young brothers? Where are they? Where are your young brothers and your young sisters? In the Friday girls' halaqah, I was talking about equality and equity. And one sister, after, if you remember my Saturday family events talk, one sister, she had a question. She said, I am troubled. I am confused. I don't know what to do. I said, what do you mean? She said, what you mentioned is one thing. What we are being taught in the school is another thing. What the TV is telling us, we don't know what to do. Please, wallahi, she was crying. She was like, please help us. We don't know what to do. These are your daughters, brothers. These are your daughters right here. Your daughters are going through this. Maybe they share or they don't share it with you. It's very important. I hope, inshallah, in our future durus, in our future, we should have this masjid filled the way it is on family events. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us and our family and our kids and our generation from every defilement, from every vile behavior, from every obscenity, from every dirtiness and disgusting acts that is displeasing to Him. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect our whole generation, all of the Muslims all over the world until the Day of Judgment. May Allah protect us from the fitna of life and death, from the fitna and trials of Ad-Dajjal, Masih Ad-Dajjal. May Allah protect us from the fitna of the grave, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us and our family from the punishment of the hellfire. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.